Welcome to Americana Quill, ready to write up. Please like and subscribe and tell a friend to like and subscribe. Today we are joined by none other than Jessie CRAY, who has her own podcast entitled To My Own Opinion, as we break down more episodes of Lovecraft Country as the writing and story is so impeccable that we've been lost since the beginning. So let's not waste any more time and get into episode 5. Hi Jessie, thank you for doing this with me. I greatly appreciate it.
Hi guys, I'm so excited to be back.
No, we're great. I'm grateful that you're here with us. So let me just get right into it as far as the synopsis, and we'll just keep the show going. Episode 5, synopsis. After sleeping with William, Ruby wakes up as a white woman, and William reveals to her his metamorphosis potion. Montrose tells Atticus that he has taken care of Yahima and destroys the pages, causing his son to nearly beat him to death. Leti tells Atticus that she is afraid of his anger, but the two later reconcile and have sex. Montrose goes to Sammy's apartment and has sex with him. As Tick worked on deciphering the language of Adam from Leti's photos, Leti warns him that the use of magic is inherently evil and will corrupt him. Ruby decides to keep using the potion for his privilege and gets a job as an associate manager at a department store under the name of Hillary Williams. Tells her that she must perform a favor for Christina by planting a runic stone in Captain Lancaster's office. While doing so, she discovers an imprisoned man who has been tortured and learns that the sheriff has a partially black body. Later, Ruby witnesses her white bosses. Paul attempts to sexually assault Tamara. After Christina tells Ruby to embrace power, Ruby rapes Paul with a stiletto heel. Ruby confronts William and asks what he and Christina do in the basement, and William metamorphoses into Christina as Atticus works on the language. He translates something that causes him to call his forever lover Gia in South Korea. This episode was directed by Cheryl Dorn. The teleplay is credited to Misha Green and Jonathan Ikid and Sonia Witten, Mitten, I believe is how you pronounce it. So that's pretty much the overall encompassing the synopsis of episode 5. So my first question, I guess, to you, Jessie, is what was your favorite scene?
My favorite scene had everything to do with Cardi B songs. I feel like, the songs that they portrayed, were so powerful for the moment that was being told. And when Money showed up, and it started playing and she walked back into a place that they said no, but she, her new power, her new currency, as she would say, she went in there and got a job. And when she did her interview with the same credentials as she did as, regular Ruby. And it was funny to hear the assistant manager go, I should be worried about you taking my job.
Right.
It was a good story. And it was crazy to see that happened, just because of the color of her skin and because she was a heavier set black woman. That, and then at the end where she got the payback for, the assistant manager, harassing Tamara.
Right.
She did justice. And
Tamara's the other black associate that worked at the place, right?
The one that didn't have any education. She just got it because the manager thought she was pretty. He wanted to,
try to do something with her.
Yeah. But I loved seeing Ruby be selfish because Ruby is a giver. Ruby is always taking care of her mother. She's always getting the short end of the stick because she's always giving. And for her to be selfish this episode and say, no, I'm not going to do it. But then she got to see how the other side lived and how she didn't need any money. She just got things for free because she was a white woman. And it was beautifully told. And I give a lot of credit to Ruby and Hillary, aka Dell. Both of them playing back and forth, against each other was genius. I'm trying to think, and even like getting the little bits of the backstory with Montrose and his lover, Sammy.
Montrose.
Yeah, Montrose. Sorry.
No, I think I might have said it wrong. Maybe that's why I messed you up. Sorry.
But also in this episode, you see Leti moving closer to God and belief, and you see Ruby opening herself up to the power of magic.
Yeah.
So it was definitely my favorite episode, and like I told you before, I loved Ruby from the start, but to see her, like, this is the episode that made me love her.
Right. No, I got you with that. To me, Hillary is the Caucasian version of Ruby, right? If I'm not mistaken. So my favorite scene was when she woke up and she still put her hands up when the police was still harassed them, and she didn't realize that they weren't there they were there to save her supposedly,
yeah,
and take her back home. So just that whole concept of walking a mile in someone else's shoes, like she really got to do that. And you saw that in the montage, and when she goes out for ice cream and she gets the ice cream for free, she gets to sit at the park and it's pleasant and peaceful, and she just she truly showed like a level of humanity that she felt like she was receiving from everyone because of her skin. So that was interesting to me, and then also her going to get the job that she always wanted, because that was a job that she spoke about for a few episodes. Like, oh, I've been applying to try to get this one position,
and for her,
and she was offended that the one that did get the job has no skills at all. So then she's talking to her, although like a white woman, but like as a way two black people talk to somebody that is in a position of privilege to try to like keep a job. It's more of, you got to be better than everything else. Like, you can't just be okay at your job. Like, you got to know what's going on, kind of thing.
She was saying that as a sister, but in, white skin, so it wasn't coming across.
Right, it's coming off harsh.
Also with that, when talking about like Tamara and the white ladies, where she was being hard on her, and then she went into the back and she was trying to get the white women to like, hi, your break's over 15 minutes ago, like, let's go. And they were like, don't worry about it, we're just going to try on these shoes before the rich people pay for them. And they didn't want to work with Tamara, but they wanted her to show her the South Side, and it's crazy to see that, because we're all human,
Yeah.
Work together, and not for your amusement,
Right. It shouldn't be an experiment project.
Yeah. And also with Ruby, where you were talking about the first episode, well, the first part of the episode where she ran into the South Side confused, and she said, those white people weren't scared of me. They were scared for me because I was confused. And I was like, distraught. And to me, Ruby went there because that's her home. She's like a celebrity there. She just did a whole block party, a couple episodes ago, performing, and she went there to, for comfort, and she was confused. And then like the power of, in that time, the power of a white word, no matter what the truth was top dollar. And she saw that as soon as, the little boy came to help her out, and he bumped into her, and the police were ready to tear him up and, everything under the sun to him. And she said, no, no, no. And just think, not every white woman spoke up like that.
Right.
And that's another
thing. Kind of makes you think of like the times of like Emmett Till and things like that. It's like, so yeah, I totally get that.
So, but that's just what I had to say about that part of it, because I was thinking about it when I was doing my back research after, writing this.
So you mentioned Ruby having your favorite performance. She has mine too, and that was mainly centered because of just the way the lens panned on observing her new life as Hillary, and like just you seeing like the differences, and how I love that at the end of it all, Ruby didn't care to be in that skin anymore. Like, she was happy with who she was eventually, but it was more of a, she had to see it for herself to know that like there's nothing better or different. Like, the grass isn't necessarily greener, it's just perceived that way. So when she realized that, and then kind of like got revenge by like hurting that manager, it was interesting and very thought provoking of like someone claiming themselves again you know, and being happy with what they are and not thinking that job is everything, because it wasn't everything. It was a crappy job, like where like, you know, there's a bunch of crappy individuals working there.
Yeah. My also thing was when William asked for her help, he said, you know, I'm going to need a favor, because Ruby wasn't dumb. She knew, like, you know, what you need from me. And he said, when the time comes, it comes. And she was living her life in her white skin, and he snatched it back by saying, hi, we need you to be a maid.
Right, we need you to go back to what you look like, your normal self.
So yeah, so you could blend in and, you know, do what you needed to do.
Right.
So it's just a lot of like little eggshells that you see when you know, you
No,
read.
absolutely.
But
And for me, it was not knowing, because before this episode, you don't know, you think Montrose just a regular heterosexual, just who lost his wife, and then to find out that he had sex with another man was like shocking, because it came out of kind of out of left field, but it's after what's his name beat the bricks off of him, basically.
Yeah.
Tick, which was like, whoa.
And it's crazy that he killed, how do you say it, Yahima,
I believe.
Yahima.
Yeah.
And you know, he's in love with the drag queen.
Right.
You know, and I felt like that, like, it wasn't a lot what we got from that, but it was a lot what we got from it. Him,
right.
You know, he beat his son because, you know, he was ashamed, because that's what he was taught from his father. It was a shame. You weren't allowed to be that. That's not okay. And he beat his child and passed along that trauma.
Right.
You know? And I just felt like in that moment when he, you know, kissed Sammy and met all his friends, and then they went to the club, and he kind of had like a moment where he's like, I'm free, you know, I can be myself, you know, it doesn't matter. And at that moment he came out just himself. He didn't come out to his son, he didn't come out to anyone, but it's accepting first and then letting everybody else in to know.
Right.
And you know, it's different, like everything that's accepting now wasn't accepted then.
True.
And everybody learns, and imagine how much different life could have been if, you know, he was allowed to be who he really was instead of having to, you know, hide it. And that comes in with, you know, that ties in with depression and everything else, because it's generational depression.
Yeah, it was amazing to me how much anger was in that one scene of, like, basically it seemed like every moment of anger that Tick had was put into punching his dad. Like every last punch, which was mind blowing. But like I said in the first 4 episodes we discussed, Montrose is always doing something he thinks is helping, but is really hurting everyone's cause because of his own little traumas that he just can't get out of his own way.
Yep, own worst enemy.
No, absolutely. So, what was your favorite sci-fi moment?
I don't think it's a sci-fi moment. I think it's more of like a horror moment. I think it's the last time that she, you know, morphs and she sheds the skin and she watches the assistant manager, you know, harass and try to, you know, force himself on Tamara, which consent is real, guys. No means no. And she came to that realization and she said, enough is enough. This is never going to happen, because she said, if it was the other way around, this would have been happening to me. You know, and she's always a protector. She's always trying to make sure stuff is done, you know, and make sure no one's getting hurt. And I feel like the last time that she shed her skin, when she showed herself, you know, to him, like, oh no, I'm going to let you know that this black woman did this to you.
Right.
Like that, it was scary, but it was horrifyingly good. Like,
right. It was a needed evil to like show like how to show that, like, I don't know, it was able to show more than I can say verbally right now, but like it was a needed evil to keep the story going forward and for Ruby to have that moment of justice in a way. Because to me, when I saw it, I was like, although it was terrifying. It was like it was well deserved because he's just an asshole of an individual, that guy. And sometimes you just from the film of medium or the story of medium of television, you just want some type of payback for somebody doing wrong. And for Ruby not to get the job, who was well qualified, probably more than most people, and to always be told no because of the way she looked and because she wasn't quite appealing, to give it to someone else that wasn't qualified at all, but just because of their looks, it just showed a lack of integrity in the job market, and at that time, and still happens to this very day.
Yeah, the discrimination and everything. And
absolutely,
I feel like I've never seen an episode. I've never seen a TV show, show how great someone like Ruby is. They're usually trying to make fun of a heavier set lady or make her the joke or the clown. And to see like how everything was like it was just Ruby did her thing this episode.
Right. No, absolutely.
And for like when she figured out that Christina was really William, because William did die in an earlier
the house fire, I believe. Yeah, because what we find out is that towards the end, the butterfly transformation process is when William also leaves gets out of his body and becomes Christine, which takes Ruby aback of like, what the heck is happening right now. So I thought that was like that was my kind of like sci-fi / takeaway moment, is that knowing that Montrose is now gay, because we didn't know that before, or bisexual, because that's not very clear yet.
Yeah.
And then when they went to the bar, and then the white women were having such a grand old time, and then the manager, like you said, is just trying to find a way to like make what's her name do something for him, and not even like try to like court her or anything. He just simply took her out back to the alley and tried to like make something happen.
Like the ownership and the audacity.
Right.
Like, you're not her owner. You're her you're her manager at work. You guys are at a bar that she took you to be nice.
Right.
But even with.
But I appreciate that she walked away. She didn't stay there. She didn't let it happen. She simply walked away, and so that was, to me, that was very. I like to see that she stood on her morals and just left. She didn't like go with it to keep that job.
Yeah, that was probably like her first job.
Right.
Probably like, I don't really need this. Like, personally, this is not okay.
Right.
But even like Ruby had a white skin, but you could still see, her shining through her white skin, and it showed when they were in the back and they were talking. I'm sorry to go back to this, but
no, it's fine.
When she was dancing, you could see it, like the white women making the comments like, wow, you should be, on the south side in the club dancing with all the flavor you got in you. And you could see that no matter what skin she was in, her true self always shined through.
Right. Absolutely.
No matter what. And I also read something when I was doing my extra research that she was so scared in the beginning because impersonating a white person was like death.
Right.
And that was what was scary to her when she was so confused. And just every time that she morphed, she shed the new skin. It's like she was learning more about herself.
Right.
And like basically at the end of the episode, she's like, I want to be me. I don't want to be what you guys think I should be. And I think that that's the problem with, white people holding black people up to a certain type of standard, but white people aren't being held up to the standard that they're supposed to be held up to.
Right. No, I totally get that. And to me, the most important thing, although this was a great episode and it had a lot of things that gave a lot of answers to certain characters, was the phone call at the end when because of the research that Tick did and finding out more information on certain things. He went to that phone so nervous. You forget how back in the day, I guess you used to have to call an operator just to get a call across. You couldn't even just like dial numbers like that. So that was crazy to me.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah. And that led us to our next episode, actually. I can't believe we already went through it that fast.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Whew.
Do you have any takeaways for episode 5 before we talk about episode 6 in our next podcast?
Basically, I'm just gonna say that Leti had a quote that she said that kind of stuck with me, where she said, "I guess I've seen so much bad that I'm just trying to find something good in the whole situation." So, you know, when someone's seen so much bad, your mindset is stuck on that. And as I said earlier, she's finding herself in her faith.
Right.
And she's gonna keep that hope, that little glimpse of hope. We also didn't speak about the sex scene, because they definitely, like, I'm not spoiling nothing, but she could have been pregnant with that sex scene, and it was very good performance. That was it's like, oh, she's definitely pregnant, like pregnant. That's how good it was. But it's a beautiful thing when you find your faith. And it speaks to you, and God is your lifeline, and to see her grow, it's a sign of maturity, especially when Ruby took care of everybody her whole entire life, and her being selfish, that's her growing too,
Right.
And butterfly episode, everybody's morphing and growing and turning into beautiful butterflies. So
no, absolutely. And I think the most important thing too is well, not the most important thing, but something that was very also poignant now that I'm recalling all of it in my mind was what was I about to say? I lost my train of thought for a second. It was more of when she talks about how the magic is bad, right? And I think a lot of Black people are taught that for some reason, that magic is bad.
Yeah.
And Tick had the thought process say, no, it's what you do with it, like, and that's just like anything, like with power comes great responsibility. You get me? Like, it doesn't have to be bad if you do it for a lighter reason, for like the proper light, I guess, in a way. So like, I thought that was very interesting that he kind of changed her thought process on that in that quick second. Like, no, it's not inherently evil. It's what you do with it that makes it good or evil. And that was from her doing research and knowing more about the Native American that Montrose killed. So I think that's what led to those answers being answered, to those questions being answered. Excuse me.
Yeah, I think that Leti is Tick's light, and I think that she makes him better. She kind of grounds him. She kind of grounds him and makes him better, and it's nice to see that.
Right, but I also think he gives her purpose, because I don't think she really had purpose before. So that's interesting.
And especially because dealing with a man that comes back from the war, what is it called? Post-traumatic.
Yeah, PTSD is a possibility and different things like that. Yeah.
And Matt, like, I'm glad that he has some kind of control.
Right.
I feel like a good woman or a good man, whatever your preference is, will always bring out the best in someone.
Right. Absolutely. That's kind of all I have for episode 5. Do you have anything else, or is that it?
No, oh wait, when I tell you, I'll give this episode a 4.
Oh yeah, what are we rating this? I forgot. Sorry.
Like, to me, it's like a 4.5, 5. Like, it's right on that little margin, because this is like, these 3 episodes are definitely my favorite episodes. And really, it was the first one and the Hippolyta one. But even the Mimi and Dugai one, I love this episode now because I understand. When you do a little research, you find out more stuff and you understand it better.
No, absolutely. So I want to thank Jessie for doing the breakdown with me for episode 5, Americana of Lovecraft Country. This has been Americana Quill, Ready to Writer. Please like and subscribe. Thank you, guys.